Hey, it's Hannah here, and in this video I'm going to show you some training I did with two rescued zebra donkey crosses who came to me for some training. By the time they came to me, they were very anxious about being handled. You couldn't touch them. Had a lot of inconsistency before they got to the rescue centre. They'd been shipped all over the world. They'd been owned by different people, handled by different people, and unfortunately they'd also been lassoed to get head collars on as well, so nobody could get near enough to them to take them off. So that was my task, and this is the training that I did with them. Okay, so I began by teaching them the very basics, just about understanding that my presence meant food, understanding about a marker signal, and teaching them both to target. So that was just to touch their cones with their noses, as you can see Zambi doing there. And I was working them over a fence because they were very anxious if I was in with them and would tend to just run away out of the back door. So they felt more confident if they were over a barrier. And I started this way with both of them. So this one is Z, and the other one, the larger one, is Zambi. Once they had learned to target, I started to teach them to stand on a pedestal, and I did this just by using the target to help explain to them where I wanted them to go. So again, this was just improving their problem solving abilities and making sure that they knew how to learn and knew how the training worked, which was really important. Once they understood the two behaviours, as you can see, I put them on cue, so they knew when I put my hand up over there to stand on the pedestal, and when I pointed to the target, to touch the target. This was really key because they kind of didn't really pay any attention to me before this, and as they started to understand that my body language had meaning and to understand that, they lost a lot of their anxiety. But you can still see I asked to target on a stick, but because there was a stick in my hand, anything in my hand was too anxious and they would just leave. So the next bit I wanted to do was to be able to touch them. Now it was really important that they were coming to me, so again I used the target to help them come into position. Now with Z, she managed to get her head collar off her nose, so obviously it was quite dangerous around her neck, so I really wanted to get this training done with her as fast as I could. So I held my hand out, the target told her where to go, and as she went to the target, her shoulder touched my hand, at which point I would click to say that's the behaviour that I wanted. This meant that pretty soon I could take the target away and she was still coming up to me. Now as you can see, she was coming to me, it was her choice. This is so important when there's fear involved, that it's their decision. They've got the choice to be able to leave, they're not being forced, and that really empowers them to be able to make that decision and to overcome that fear and anxiety because they're not being pressurised into it. So you can see that when I held my hand out, by now she really clearly understood to move towards me, and because it was under her control, she very quickly allowed me to touch her and stroke her and to be able to take the head collar off from around her neck as well, which is what I really wanted to do because I felt like it was quite dangerous hanging around there. And because she was a bit anxious when the head collar came off, I just wanted to practice that again. And you can see she was very happy to come up, and she actually really started to enjoy the touch and being stroked as well. So she made some really nice quick progress. Zambi, on the other hand, was totally different, very different personality. And even though you can see I'm doing the same thing, but she's just got so much more tension and anxiety there. And this is where Zambi really shows that just getting the behaviours isn't enough. You've really got to pay attention to that emotional state. So you can see she's got the ears pinned, she's touching the target but she's leaning away from me, her tail's swishing, and obviously this is a very extreme reaction where she just backs right off away. And she's very clearly telling me that although she understands the behaviour, there's too much tension and anxiety there for me to continue with the way I was doing it. And you can see when she comes back again to do it, but there's just a lot of tension there. Another reason to work over a barrier. And this isn't good for either of us. I want her to be relaxed and happy with the training, so I tried a different tack to really help get that emotional piece in place for Zambi. So I instead decided to teach her to play fetch. Now this was really important because it was her coming towards me but slightly differently, so it wasn't about being touched, it was about passing me the fetch toy. So it was getting this similar behaviour but with something else that she'd never had before, and that was really important. And what it did was it made her much more comfortable with me and meant I could hand feed her. So then I started with the shoulder targeting again, hoping that it would have changed, but she still was really anxious. And again, This is why it's so important not to force or pressure them into it when there's anxiety. Partly because you obviously don't want to frighten them, but also if they've got that, they need to have that space to be able to tell you how they feel about it. And you can see she so clearly understood the behaviour, but there was still that anxiety and tension. And it's just, if you're going to get that good connection and that good relationship and those good results, you've got to find a way to help them soften and relax. And although I took this really slowly, I wasn't actually touching her. I was trying to look for those moments of relaxation to reinforce. It wasn't working. So I had to get creative once again to help Zambi out. And so what I did was taught her to shoulder target to target her shoulder to the target, but I had a jumper draped over it. And she got this really quickly and she was really eager to do it. You can see how enthusiastic she is about this and the difference in her expression, her relaxation compared to when it was my hand. There you go, totally different emotions. And this is because she's got a lot of negative emotional associations with hands already that we're trying to overcome. But with jumpers, I'm guessing she had none before that. So all her experience with jumpers has been through this positive reward-based training, which means that she's got now 100% positive association with jumpers. So it's much easier to help get that relaxation, whereas with the hands, then there was all that previous tension and anxiety to overcome. So as long as my hand was covered by the jumper, so in Zambi's eyes she was being touched with the jumper, you can see she was relaxed and happy for me to touch her. And this, it just shows why the emotional piece is so important, and it's all about those emotional associations. How does your horse or your zebra or your donkey or your zonkey feel about what it is that you're doing? And as long as my hand was under the jumper, I was able to touch her. She stayed soft. Look at that expression. She was just so relaxed compared to how she was before, and I was able to undo the head collar, which was really good because it was tight and I really wanted to be able to take it off for her. Again, it was her choice. She was relaxed, she was eager, and just really nice. And there we go. So obviously when she felt it move on her face, that old anxiety came back. But again, she very willingly kind of came back to me and relaxed.
Fabulous. What a good girl. What a good girl. I know, it was a little bit scary, wasn't it? What a superstar.
So just to make sure that that hadn't upset her too much, she just used the jumper again, and as you can see, she was straight back to being happy and relaxed about being touched with it. So you've got to get creative to find the right way through and to get that emotional piece for your horse, or maybe a different way to explain it. But Zambi understood it here, but she was just anxious. And what this really did was change our whole perception and relationship, so that we were able to work in with her. She was confident with me there, and I could start to play in a different area and with a different pedestal. So you can see this was Z muscling in. So I had to still be really slow in my movements, because if any fast movements and they just run away, but just to keep Z out of the way, give her some treats down there. And you can see Zambi leaving the free food to come and play this game, and this was the first time she stood on this different pedestal, which was really nice. And you can see she's just so much more relaxed and confident. She's really tuned into me. She's got that connection. She's watching for my what I'm asking her to do, and she's completely different to the very frightened, very reactive Zonky who arrived. Okay, so that was a little whirlwind tour of the 2 months training. You can see in much more depth in the connected members area of connection training, but I hope that gave you a kind of little idea of what I did, how I adapted it for each of the 2 girls, because they were very different, and just about that emotional piece and getting creative to help your horse get the right emotional place and to understand what you're asking for. But they were really wonderful. I was really privileged to work with them, and I hope you enjoyed watching them.